If you are living with people and you need touch, tell them. Hugs are really important. If you're not with anybody and you are hunkered down by yourself, it is so much harder to get something that you can't fake, that you can't get virtually.
Did you push record?
Thanks for tuning in again to Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka, coming from the pandemic.
Yeah, right now we're 2 weeks or 3 weeks into quarantine, something like that, depending on where you are,
And some of us have been doing it longer. I've been doing it longer just because of my emergency preparedness training. So exactly, depending on where you are and what you chose to do.
Yeah. Well, and one topic came up which we want to discuss today that is getting more and more critical as this thing progresses, and that is the loss of touch and how important touch, physical touch, or even just being in touch with people is for your sanity, for your emotional health, and the consequences associated with that. We talked about that off camera, Paige, and I know you indicated that this is huge and something that you really want to bring awareness about. So let's talk about that. What do they need to be aware of when it comes to touch and the loss of it?
It's exactly what you just said, Silka, the loss of touch. Touch is so vital and important to human beings. There's good touch, there's bad touch, but we all need some type of good touch. When we connect with another person, there's a visceral effect that goes on in the body, and it actually sends us great endorphins. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel protected. It makes us feel loved. It makes us feel joy. It makes us feel connected. It makes us feel like we belong to something, connected to someone, not so alone, not so fearful, not so anxious. But in the world, in the day of pandemic and social distancing, there isn't much touch going on.
Well, and I mean, depression, anxiety, everything is connected to that. But knowing that we can't, unless of course you're hunkered down with your significant other, with your, people that you're with, then you're very lucky if you're with somebody that you can and you are able to touch. But when you do not have that, what happens, and well, what can you do about it, if anything?
That there's a piece that feels like there's a death inside of you at times when you don't have touch because you're so isolated and you're not getting that flesh to flesh kind of connection. And let's also bring up too, even medical touch, because there's so many of us out there that need touch when it's types of massages, neuromuscular massage, energy medicine, touch for healing, touch when someone's working on painful parts of your body. Like that's all a connection of being loved, cared for, supported, helping you feel good, helping you feel better. So there's all these different forms of touch that aren't taking place. So people are having emotional pain, physical pain, depressed by it, so afraid, is this ever going to end? Anxiety about when it's going to end, and feeling like, what am I going to do? Because I feel like my inner self is getting more depressed, more feeling isolated, alone, and my flesh, something is happening where my pain is getting worse. Things that I usually get from medical or healing practitioners, I'm not getting, and I'm noticing that it's getting worse. Or maybe you're not noticing, but you're having all of these emotions and you can't figure out where it's connected to. So these are all really important pieces that, you and I talked about, that we need to talk about what's going on with lack of touch for people.
Yeah. Well, so what can you tell our listeners, our viewers, how to deal with this?
It's hard. It's really hard. So if you are living with people and you need touch, tell them. Hugs are really important. So if you're hunkered down and everyone's safe, healthy, hugs are really important, even more so now. So hugs, holding hands, sitting next to each other, watching a movie, that's really, really important. If you're not with anybody and you are hunkered down by yourself, it is so much harder to get something that you can't fake, that you can't get virtually. However, it's good to do FaceTime, Skype, Zoom with people who you're connected with at least. You might not be getting physical touch, but you're getting somebody who says, I care about you, I miss you, I love you, how are you doing? Like connect with each other in some way, fashion, or form. However, and I'll bring this up, the longer this continues, and I've said this to you, Silke, off camera, I send it to all my clients, patients, my friends, and family, that I knew that April was going to be a really difficult month. And the longer that this goes on, the harder it is to realize, oh my gosh, is anything ever going to get better? Am I ever going to get back to any kind of what I thought was normalcy, which will create a new normal? So it gets deeper, it feels darker, it feels heavier, and the people you FaceTime with, they're also feeling it too. So think about your life. When you're going through a hard time, you've got at least one person that maybe isn't going through a hard time that can hold the space for you and be there. But when everybody is going through the same thing, meaning being hunkered down, not being connected, dealing with financial issues, loss of job, kids being home, whatever it might be, you're not going to be able to get the same kind of support from that support system unless you have like someone like me who's a therapist, a coach, a healer, someone like that who you can reach out to. And we're still going through stuff, but it's our job to be there for others. So I thought that was really important to bring up when we're talking about touch and how to connect.
Yeah. What came up for me when you were describing that is also that while we may all be going through this at the same time, we're going through different degrees. I mean, some of us have it worse than others, and we'll have good days and bad days, and maybe realizing that when you do have a good day, how important it is to reach out to somebody, especially if you're the one lacking. I try to tell myself that, and I'll ask for your opinion on that, but I know that if I feel like I'm lacking something, then I always think about, well, am I giving it?
That's a great point.
And I usually find out that I'm not. Here's something I really, really want, but I haven't. And if I make an effort to give that to somebody else, all of a sudden it comes back to me.
Yeah, and then there's the flip side. For those of us who are practitioners, so we have the nurses, the doctors, the first responders who are on the front line are constantly giving. And then you have people, what I'm doing, who are constantly giving because there's such a need. So it's the flip side of us going, okay, I need to take a step back, and how do I do self-care because I need to give even more now. So there's all of that combination going on as well too.
Yeah. Well, so how do we support each other? I mean, I know it's hard. I know it's up next to impossible, but there's got to be something we can do.
I go back to what I think I've always said for us here on Second Act, and it's communication. And people are tense. They just are. There's anxiety, there's fear, and there's rage. There's three things that I've seen continuously, not in that order. And it's really important is who do you speak with to process out these feelings, to figure out what's your strategy, what's your game plan each day to do self-care. And if you're someone who hasn't been doing any self-care, it's going to hit you harder now. But now's a really good time to figure out what can I do? What's my routine as soon as I get up in the morning? What can I do throughout the day? How can I end my day? That is so vital and so important because you're not going to have the same normalcy. And coming from my background of emergency preparedness and response, things are not going to be normal. Our normal that we've known for a long time, if ever again, in certain ways.
Yeah.
Because you just never know how this thing will play out, one way or another.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and we're starting to come to the end. The whole what we wanted to discuss, of course, the importance of touch, that we're not even realizing perhaps what we're the consequences that we're experiencing by not having that we wanted to bring awareness to that. Is there anything that you want to leave us with, Paige, on that?
Yeah, I just thought about something else too and I'm not talking in a sexual way, although if you'd like to do that, go right ahead. But you know what? It's really okay if you actually start to massage your own body, if you start to feel touch from yourself in a different way, because the body holds the story. The body holds everything that goes on in your life, every feeling, every sense that you have. So doing these kind of self type of massages really can help. I know it's nothing like having a touch from someone else, but it's amazing when you're doing this, how your muscles are going, oh, thank you, I need this. And it's waking things up, and it's actually moving the lymphs, which is really important to move your lymphs when things are stagnant or you're not getting what you need. And just remember too, that self-care is vitally important. And I hope that when this pandemic starts to lift, that people don't start to go back to how they were and go, oh, well, I don't need the self-care anymore, because that's the whole point about being proactive, because there will always be a different kind of scenario that comes into our lives that's traumatic, difficult, challenging. So you can be ahead of the game if you have a routine. So continue the self-care, continue reaching out, ask for what you need. And also, you know what? If you need to go sit in the bathtub and cry your face off, do it, because that's another kind of release as well, too.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you are all safe, that you are, you know, staying put, of course. We can't reinforce that message enough.
Yeah.
And that hopefully, within just a few more weeks, we will be through at least the worst part of it. If you have questions, if you have other, concerns, please reach out, leave us your comments. If there's topics maybe that you'd like to have us cover concerning this, Paige, anything else?
No, just think about this, and I'm a big proponent of this. Every action you take, and I'm speaking about the pandemic, every action you take has a ripple effect. So choose wisely, choose healthy, because it's not just about you, it's about all of us, and it's about the whole world.
Well, and on that, we will see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Bye.
For more videos on taking charge of your emotional health after 50, please visit our website, secondact.tv. And if you have a suggestion on a topic that you'd like us to cover, we do have a suggestion box on the upper right-hand corner of the website, a little red box. Just click on there, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.